Good evening. Welcome to the Budget Finance Committee joint meeting with the Select Board for our workshop. First order of business is approval of minutes of our last meeting on March 15th.
I have a question about the minutes.
Go ahead.
On page 2, under the town buildings, it says that the last sentence is our current bonds will mature in 2026. And didn't we receive updated sheets saying that the bonds mature in 2025? So the question is, would there be a correction to the minutes? Or would that be corrected in the minutes from the meeting tonight when we review the sheets that we got on the 25th of March?
It would really be corrected tonight when we talk about that I can make a note that says in the previous meeting, it was said that it was the 26th, but now it's the 25th. Because that's what was said then.
Okay. All right, then I move that the minutes be accepted as presented.
Thank you, Karen.
Second.
Thank you for the second. Is there any discussion, omissions, additions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? The motion carries. Next, I have the town manager and the finance director updates. Who chooses to go first?
I'll go first, I guess. The only thing I have is actually an addition, and that's for consideration, and it has to do with the comprehensive plan. Initially, we didn't have a whole bunch of interest. We had just 2 folks and 3 folks for quite some time. We ran an ad in the Roadrunner. Now we have a whole bunch of folks interested. Of course, we have to go through a process. They would have to be, interviewed and, appointed by the Board of Selectmen. We'd have to have organizational meetings and decide on a course of action. But likely, one of the first things we'd do once we got organized would be to develop and issue an RFP for a consultant to assist us as we did the last time around. This is all assuming, of course, we go forward, and that's a selectman, decision as well. But so I was talking with John Rand today, who was on the previous effort, and he's, active in the planning field, and trying to get a sense, if he had one, about what it might take to, I guess, have a professional planner to assist the comp plan committee for the balance of the year. And my own experience of this in the past, factored by time, it's been a while. The thought we had would be somewhere in the range of 10 to perhaps as much as 20, but I would think probably on the 10 side for professional consulting services, someone to help assist and lead the comprehensive plan group. So that's something that's not in the budget, and if we're going to go forward with the comp plan, it probably should be. That's all I have.
Thank you, Don. Charisse?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Just to highlight, to make sure that everybody's received them via email last Friday, a couple of updated budget worksheets, the appropriation summary, and for revenue and expenditures. And the revenue has been updated to reflect what we believe will be a increase in medical reimbursement services revenue. We just increased our fees, so we felt pretty confident in doing that. We hadn't increased them since April of 2017, so this would put us more in line with our local other ambulance services. And let's see, the other one was debt service. We are in a rising interest rate market, so I thought it appropriate to just do a slight increase on the debt service. One other point of mention would be, I do have an estimate on the undesignated fund balance as of FY June 30, 2021. And probably the most appropriate place to talk about that is when Kurt refers to his memo in regards to his proposed warrant articles to consider in increasing the cap. That's all I have.
Thank you, Charisse.
Welcome.
Kurt, let's talk about the municipal tax cap.
Yes, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So annually, we do a calculation for the municipal spending limit that was prescribed by statute back in 2005 or so timeframe. The town has generally been able to stay under the spending limit without an increase. Most years we did do an increase in 2014 at that, and since then we've had no reason to have to do any increases to the spending limit. In doing a preliminary look at the proposed budget, if no undesignated fund balance is used to reduce tax commitment, the current budget is about $338,000 over the municipal spending limit. And even if we were to apply 300,000, it's very close, and there are some unknowns that don't come into play until after the budget that could put us over the limit. So it seems like it might be a good idea to have a warrant article as a confirmatory vote on the budget, that if the budget resulted in the town going over the limit, then the limit would be either increased to the amount of the budget for that year, or secondarily, the town could opt to increase the LD1 limit by a specific dollar amount. That was the option that was chosen in 2014. I think we added $500,000 to the limit, so that we wouldn't have to revisit the limit vote annually. Thing we have going on this year is that when you have a set of articles, if the voters approve the entire budget, but then were to, for some reason, not approve the use of fund balance, it would trigger an override, because, unless the budget was reduced by over $360,000. So it would be wise to have the override in hand to cover in case the fund balance use was not approved by the voters, because there's no guarantees what's going to happen. And also, we don't know what's going to happen between now and September, and when the board begins to address how much fund balance they want to use. They won't be as constrained because they would have a potential override of the vote in hand. So if there were a situation where they would need to use less than 300, they would have some flexibility to do that. So I put a couple options in there that I thought would be doable. One is kind of a generic one, that it resets the limit to what the budget is if it's necessary. So if, in simple terms, if the tax core levy were $50,000, but the levy limit was $40,000, if you pass the override vote, the levy limit that would come up to the 50, and that's the number we would build off the next year. So it would reset it to whatever the approved budget was. If it approved budget core levy was 40,000 and the levy limit was 50 and it was under, then the vote, whether it was approved or not, would become unnecessary. We would then build off the original 40, original cap. So it's only a if necessary kind of action. It's a little wonky because if for some reason the budget does put us over the limit, but the override or the increase were to fail, then you have to go back and either reduce your core levy, or you have to have another meeting and another vote on the budget. So they kind of have to go hand in hand. And I view it as kind of a second confirmatory. Are you sure you want to do this? Press yes or no kind of thing.
Where does that take our mill rate to?
I had done some preliminary numbers for Sharice a while back, but that was before we knew some new rev share numbers. So I'm not, Sharice, do you remember where I was at on potential mill rate the last time I calculated it? I think it was maybe 75 cents if it with RVL, or I'd have to check my email. It's somewhere in that vicinity.
All right.
But we've had some additional changes that I'm not sure how they affect, because I haven't run that calculation since we found out that we're going to have some increases in rev sharing.
Thank you, Kurt. Any other questions for Kurt? Yeah, Don.
It's not a question, it's just really a comment about the, spending limits. In talking to Kurt earlier, some towns build in a recurring article just as a safety measure. So that's something that could be done on an annual basis or not. You're at your elective. And the other thing is that's interesting. Of course, the original limits were based on where the towns were at the time of that legislative action, and so it's a constraint, meant to be a constraint to put a check on spending. But it's a difficulty when you're adding new programs and services. A lot of the towns that had that imposed at that time were already, having those sorts of things like, recreation departments, libraries, what other things, more amenity type things. Whereas we've always been more of a basic cable sort of town, for lack of better terminology. We've kind of stuck closer to the legally mandated services. So I just make that observation that we started at a low number for a town our size.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Don. Any other questions for Kurt? Thank you, Kurt.
Welcome. Thank you.
Let's move to outside agencies. If you want to introduce them as they appear on the agenda. Raymond Waterways. Do we have a Raymond Waterways? Yes, Peggy, you're muted.
Aha, I figured it out.
There you go.
I am not a tech expert.
Well, believe me, I'm not either.
I want to thank you for this opportunity. Ordinarily, we come to this combined meeting and just ask if you have any questions, and are happy to answer those. But this year, we have some special success that we really want to crow about, and we have some challenges that we think you folks should be aware of coming along. So first of all, I am Peggy Jensen, and I'm the current president for Raymond Waterways. I have one more year to serve, and then somebody else will come on. The success that we're so excited about is, although we have not completely defeated the invasive variable milfoil in Raymond's waters, we have significantly beaten it back. There are no more dense infestations that you could practically walk on that we have battled for years. We will continue to have to send out our crew every season to check all the places we've been working 2 or 3 times in the season. They need to look for any plants. They need to remove those plants. As you know, this stuff is extremely resilient. It will regenerate from a tiny, tiny piece of stem or root. And we learned another challenge just last spring. We've always been supervised by somebody from DEP. We work under a permit from DEP, and somebody has come down every year and seen our operations. Well, last June, a person named Denise Blanchett, who's a biologist with the invasives program at DEP, came down, and she took a complete tour of our program and was so impressed. Now, what's really important is that Denise is also a diver. She is a biologist with DEP, and she dives for them when they need a diver. Way back, the first year that Raymond Waterways operated a dash boat, we did not have a crew, I was not on any part of the governance at that time. I worked as a volunteer on the boat, but they were hiring contract divers on a per diem basis. And Denise was one of those contract divers. So she knows what we started working with. And the year that she worked for us, she worked mostly in the Bayview canals. Now, you know that we talk about pulling milfoil, but in fact, you don't grab and yank. You have to find a stem and then trace that stem down in the muck, follow the root, hopefully get all of the root, pull the whole thing up, and then feed it into what looks like an oversized dryer hose, and it goes up onto the boat. Well, Denise is a little over 5 feet tall. She's not very tall. She's a little over 5 feet. And she said to us over and over again that summer, when she was working in the canals, she would follow a stem down, follow the root down, and be in the muck, her entire arm up to her shoulder in the muck, and still not find the end of the root, and had to break it off. So we've been wondering all these years, why have we struggled so hard with those dense patches in the canals? And it's because we have a forest of roots 3 feet down that keep regenerating. So that's one of the challenges that we continue to work on. Most of the patches are clear. We call it maintenance level. So long as there's any milfoil, variable milfoil in any of the Sebago watershed, we have to stay on alert and get out there and check for it. Otherwise, within a season or two, we would be right back where we were before and lose 20 years worth of work. So this is incredibly important to continue to support this work. We won't really know until our crew gets out this spring exactly what we're up against, but the trend has been that we've been able to, the most recent years, we've been able to beat it back a little bit each year. So we're hoping, I have my fingers crossed out of sight here, we're hoping that this year, the first survey will come back and show us that, again, we have greatly diminished those patches. Now, other challenges that we're looking at are the fact that we still have trouble, or in the past few years, we've had a great deal of difficulty finding volunteers to work on the board with us. You know, I don't remember, maybe 10, 12 years ago, we had an executive director who became ill and she had to leave. We hired another half-time executive director. I actually wasn't on the board at that time, who quickly went to full-time because of a situation that had happened. And we didn't have enough funding. So we've been operating on a totally volunteer board situation for the past 10 or 12 years. I don't know what's going to happen in 3 years or 5 years. I don't know that we'll still have an RWPA board. It may be that the town will have to take over this problem. I just don't know that. But I think you should be aware that we're facing, like so many volunteer groups, we're facing the problem of getting enough people to come on board to work with us. So that's a real challenge. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, that certainly is good news that our milfoil is decreasing or almost diminishing.
Yes, and the Jordan River had some really bad patches. That is now clear, and I hope when we get back to look at it this spring, it was clear from the dam on Mill Street all the way down to the 302 bridge. So we're hoping that we'll find that still clean.
Will you be running 2 dash boats?
We are running one now.
One?
Yes, the first boat we had was both boats were donated. The first boat, the configuration of that deck required a system of 2 enormous triple layer steel mesh baskets, which were very heavy. So as soon as you filled those with a day's harvest, the bow really went down, and it was difficult and unsafe to move that boat across Jordan Bay. We're no longer using that boat. Nathan might be able to tell you where it's gone. We generously gave it to the Public Works Department, and I think it's probably been harvested. We're
Disposed
working
of.
with just one boat.
Yeah, the original boat's gone. We got the trailer still. I don't think that'll float though.
I don't want to work off the trailer, Nate. Thank you for helping us dispose of that.
Any questions for Peggy and Raymond Waterways? I think you're free and clear, Peggy.
Thank you so much. And thank you
Thank-
for your continued support. We really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Hawthorne House, Abel, I believe, will speak to that. Abel, you have to hover the bottom of your screen to select unmute. Bring your mouse to the bottom of the screen, all the way to the left.
Better?
There you go.
All right. We'll try it again.
Yeah.
Yes, Abel Bates. I'm president of the Hawthorne Community Association this year anyway. And we want to thank you for your past support. It's been very helpful. And we doubled our request last year due to our fundraising efforts. And then this year we went back to what you had previously been supporting us with. We might ask for more in the future because we still have more work to do. Last year was pretty successful. We were looking to raise 75,000. We ended up raising last year a little over $83,000, of which we've spent most of it. Any of you have been by all last summer and you can see the work that was going on. We lifted the building up. We replaced the entire foundation on the south side and half of the west side. And then we had TC Hafford came in and they resupported the entire east side wall, which the old granite was crumbling in really badly. And then we took the granite out. We have sold the granite. Fellow's going to be taking it up to Fry Island as soon as the ferry starts running. And he's going to make a Hawthorne staircase out there. And he wants a certificate of authenticity from us. So I thought there was an interesting use of it. We took a lot of the granite down to Wells and had it veneered. We had it cut into veneers to put on the outside of the new foundation wall, sort of look original. We posted up the floor, resupported it. During the whole process, we discovered that the old furnace that we had in there for years didn't work anymore. And our long-term plan was to replace it with heat pumps, but since we had no furnace at all, we put that into the budget and we replaced the furnace with 2 commercial heat pumps. And so now we have air conditioning in there and we can use the heat, at least into the cold weather. We don't want to keep it heated all winter because it's not insulated. And, you'd end up with the roof would start leaking. And so we can turn it on, use it for a day or 2 during the winter and then turn it back off again. And it works tremendously. We have also added a lot to the interior. We've furnished it. We've put in a large screen TV for presentations. We anticipate doing more things for the community, maybe movie night or card night or all kinds of things like that. We've also had a lot more interest from the community this year after the renovations. Our first event is going to be Lake Region Chamber of Commerce is going to be using the building for their business break in April. Then we have a large private party. One of our big donors was going to Zoom a meeting. He's going to have maybe 20 people there, but he's going to Zoom it to people all over the country. That's going to be the end of April. In June, Raymond Waterways is going to be holding their annual meeting there. That's going to coincide with our Strawberry Festival, and we use the same speaker, which is convenient. I had some other things. We're planning on an open house in May, early in May. I think it's the 7th. That will be advertised. We'd like to be able to show our donors what we did with their money, and so that event will be in. And then there we have, there's a couple of other things planned, and we're really planning on using it more as a community building. Our future renovations or repairs that we need, we're getting prices right now on replacing the siding on the north wall. That north side of the building, we've had problems with that for years and years. The old clapboards are just full of mildew. There's no way to get rid of it. I think the old lead paint just holds that moisture in, moisture from the inside of the building. And within a year of painting it, it turns black again. And then we try to clean it and it just turns black again. And so the only real solution is just to tear it off and replace it. And so we would have a price on that now, but the contractor that we plan on using is trying to get the clapboards donated for us. And so that would be a big help. So that's a major project for this year. We're expanding the parking. As soon as the granite's out of there, we've already cleared it out, and we've leveled a section. And when the granite's out of there, we'll get gravel and then grade it and compact it. And so we'll increase our parking by probably 7 or 8 cars. And that's always been a problem there is we're really tight on parking. So that is, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what we did last year and what we have planned for this year. And then the following year, we're planning on putting a new roof cover on, and we have some repairs to do to the structure of the roof. So we will be raising more money, and hopefully we'll get continued support from the town. It will be free town events. So if you want to have a meeting there, it's not going to cost you anything. And any questions, I'll try to answer. One other thing, another purpose of this is we're trying to increase our membership to the point where it'll be self-sustaining. I mean, we've always had a trouble with membership. People will be a member for a year and then, they disappear and they'll show up for events, but they won't continue their membership. And as a result of this fundraiser last year, we have a lot more people have been involved in the activities and in the construction and all of our projects. And we're hoping that will continue as we open the house up to more use. So.
Any questions for Abel? Well, Abel, thank you very much for what you do.
All right. Well, thank you for your support.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Raymond Casco Historical Society.
David Allen is here for that.
All right.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi, David.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I seem to have lost you here. I'm just here really to answer questions. We appreciate the support the town's given us in the past, and are really asking for the same level this year. We do have a major project. We've just taken possession of a historically significant building in South Casco, and which is important to Raymond's history. And we are about to start a major fundraising drive to move that building. We have a fairly short fuse to get it off the property that's on, but we're a little late for this year. But just here really to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for David? Well, we've got a quiet group tonight.
Well, again, thank you for your support, the support in the past, and we appreciate it. And we'll hope you all keep an eye out for the new events that are coming out. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Raymond Rattlers. Alan?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
It's my first time using Zoom. I'm used to Google Meet. So here's Alan Plummer here with the Raymond Rattlers Snowmobile Club, club president this year. We've submitted our budget to Sharice, and we're looking for requesting $2,000 from the town for the fund from registration, the snowmobile registrations. So that's basically where we're at. We have some okay memberships this year. The snowmobiling's been kind of up and down the last few years, so it's kind of hit or miss. But I guess that's. I just wonder if anybody has any questions about our budget or anything like that.
Well, I don't see any questions.
Okay. I don't know what else as far as appreciate the town's assistance in the past and with our request for helping out the snowmobile club so we can maintain the trails and our equipment through the season. It's not always easy depending on how the season is, and all the club members are all volunteers. We have a core group of people that donate their time pretty much, or that they all donate their time to be able to provide the trails that Raymond enjoys. So yeah, it takes a lot of work and rebuilding bridges and clearing the trails and get ready for each season. So so that's about all I have, I think.
Well, thank you, Alan. Any questions?
I just have a comment. Alan did provide me with the operating budget for the snowmobile club. I have yet to forward that to everyone at this point, but we'll certainly do that tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
All right.
And Alan, I think you're free to go.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yep. You have a great evening.
That covers all outside agencies. Is that correct, Sue? It is. All right. We will move on to the budget workshop. Again, that was pretty quiet. I encourage anyone that's passionate about a certain topic, this is the time to speak up. Because our next meeting will be our voting meeting, and the articles will be prepared for us. So if you have any questions or feel passionate, please lead in. I'm going to start with outside agencies.
So when you're talking about outside agencies, you're talking the
Raymond Waterway, the presentations we just heard.
Yep.
As well as.
Why can't I find that?
Bob, if I may, the Raymond Waterways is funded through the TIF, as well as the Historical Society and the Hawthorne House. Those three agencies are funded with TIF funds, tax increment financing funds, and the Raymond Rattlers appears in the recreation budget, if that helps.
Yep.
And then there's also a specific tab labeled outside agencies, and that's I believe it was $2,000 that the town manager likes to have discretion over as far as what he would like to use those funds for. And then there's also the RTP Explorer bus program, and I think in the budget it's $1,500, even though they asked for $8,500. If that helps. Those
That
are
helps.
You have 1,000 in there instead of 1,500.
okay. Mhm.
Yep. Okay.
Someone must want to talk about RTP.
I'm fine with $1,000. I'm not okay with 8,500 or more. I think that it still needs to be there just because of the gas situation and stuff like that. But I don't know, I guess I'm still waiting for them to come talk to us. Because the selectman had said before, I think there's some areas that are issues where they need to, I don't know, find other ways to pick up people. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, if I may interject again, I believe they were present at the last budget meeting, Teresa.
They were, but we've also asked them to come talk to the select board too.
Oh, at a regular meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
I follow. Yep.
Yep. Sorry, Sharice, you didn't know that. Sorry.
Joe. You're muted.
So I'm trying to figure out where we're going with this meeting. We just heard from 3 agencies or 4 agencies, and now you're going through different hopping around type of thing. I've got a bunch of questions that I would like to have answers to, but it has nothing to do with what went on tonight.
Okay, well, that was just the first topic of discussion. It just happened to be outside agencies.
All right.
Sue?
As a kind of a point of clarification, Joe, we forgot to invite the outside agencies to come to the department head meeting, so they didn't have an opportunity to present. And that's why we put them in this meeting so they could speak. Normally, it's just working through the budget and folding, spindling, and mutilating. So, and I believe that's what's going to happen now.
Okay.
No other questions about outside agencies? Then we'll move on to administration.
So, Dawn, this is where the MMA is.
That's correct.
I vote we take it out.
I'll second that.
I believe that's $8,081, Sharice, yes. Now, a little bit of history. I mean, we had been a member, many years ago, and then we weren't a member for a number of years. And then I guess for the past few years, we've been back in. But what I used to say, and I still kind of, believe this is the correct stance. I mean, we're not a member of their health trust. We're not a member of their property casualty public officials pool. Those are the 2 big features of MMA. So what's left are legal services, advocacy, lobbying, and training. And so you can still take advantage of the training. You just pay a little slightly higher fee. It wouldn't amount to this level of money under any circumstance, particularly pandemic circumstances. So, the problem with legal services, it's a great concept, but you have to rely on legal services. And, you can't do that. They're going to give you an opinion, but you can't take that to court or depend on it in any way other than advisory to you. And then, so you really need for the complex things that we deal with, when we do call legal services, we really need an attorney who's going to be able to do that. We don't call legal services frequently.
And they don't go to court with you either. Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, I've been right along thinking, if you're not going to take advantage of their group programs, and we have programs of our own that are, competitive or superior in some cases. So that's been my thought on it. But I guess we wanted to try it, give it a trial, see if we were going to use it, and I haven't. I mean, we made one request for legal services, and I told Jenny to tell them it was an emergency because our attorney was on vacation. And I mean, it's an anecdote, but they did not get back to us in the time frame that we needed to hear from them. But I mean, I'm not faulting them. That's just how it was. We called them in the morning. We didn't get a call back. So that's really what I have to say about it. it's not going to cause a great upset in the town organization if you took it out.
Ralph?
Two things, but first is a point of order thing. I think it was just semantics the way she said it, but because this is a workshop, you can't vote on anything anyway. So you're not voting to remove it. All you're doing is putting your opinion out there that it should be
Leave it to
removed.
Rolf.
But second to that, I mean, when we went into it this year, you know, with them this year, it was kind of as a trial basis to see if the legal side of it panned out for us as far as saving us any money. It really didn't, because it turns out that most every opinion they give us, then we have to go back to our attorney and get it requalified anyway. So it was adding another layer on there that wasn't giving us really any benefit. And you know, what we had asked when we went into it last year for Sue and the others that used it to kind of keep an eye and see if it was really giving us any benefit. And I think they've agreed that it probably was not.
Thank you, Ralph.
It was somewhat beneficial with small questions, but it wasn't $8,600 or however much it is worth of benefit.
Joe?
Bob, before we go on, can I ask Sharice? We've had 3 iterations of these revenue sheets and everything else showing percentage increases. Right now, are we at 3.99%? Is that where we are as an overall budget increase? That's if you take on the library.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we're looking at around the 4% increase in the budget.
Right.
And that's without taking any money out of surplus or
Correct.
undesignated fund balance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
And of course, we're going to have some valuation growth as well.
right. I'm just trying to figure things out.
You're right. Oh, yeah.
Any other questions?
So are we still on administration, Bob?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Upon further review of that particular cost center, I was able to find another, well, close to $1,800, and it's the postage meter rental. I had factored it in for a 12-month payment. It's actually a quarterly payment. So that budget, you know, could ultimately come down, you know, $1,800 if you so choose.
So what number do you want to put in there then?
So
66,000 even? We'll come down 1,500.
Where are you now?
I'm on postage.
Looking at postage.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, this is under contract fees and services.
Oh,
Because-
you said, all right, hold on, all right.
Yeah.
Holy moly. All right, so down, say 21, I don't know,
20,200.
that works. Yeah, I was looking at postage. All right. Sorry, Sharice.
No, that's okay.
All right, I'll take that 1,800. Because there's 18 and there's 8,000 right there. There's 9,000, 9,800.
Yep.
All right. I'm good.
Any other questions on administration? Let's move on to compensation and training. Looks like a decrease this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
think the
Don,
decrease is
you-
because you're moving money around from one place to another, isn't that correct?
Well, I think last year, because I wasn't here, Joe, but I believe the primary reason for the decrease was that there were a few substantial market adjustments, one-time market adjustments that was in the, the current budget that we're in now. And, those were just a one-time market adjustment for, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 different, positions. And so that's ultimately that. And then a reduction in the travel training. A lot of the departments have their own travel training budget line. So I didn't really think it was, really didn't need to duplicate efforts, so to speak. So I reduced that as well.
Right, and also with the pandemic, there's been less of that. And with respect to the adjustments, we did, some of those over 2 years. And
Correct.
so to phase them in, so she's absolutely right on that one. But that's done now.
No other questions on compensation and training? Let's move on to assessors and then we'll cover TIF, but assessors first.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I don't think Kurt's here still, correct?
That's correct.
I'll tell you, Kurt is great. He's really a great professional and has done the town, I think, a very high level and quality service at a very reasonable price. And so I can't speak highly enough about Kurt. I would tell him that if he was here too.
All right.
But I just want to say that. Compared to having a full-time employee, it's a great savings, and he
Yes.
has an expertise that is up there with anybody in Maine.
Let's move on to the TIF then. That's towards the back of your books. Rolf,
Going to the comment that Don made back at the beginning there in regards to the comprehensive plan, it's my understanding that some of that would, that work would fit under the TIF. So instead of increasing the budget, I would look at putting that TIF so that we don't see an increase otherwise on there. We still have some headroom in there to be able to do that.
I think that's a good suggestion. Any thoughts on that, Sharice?
No, I'm not sure. The couple of the conversations that I've had with Shauna and her assistant Amanda there at Bernstein Shore, that are the TIF experts at the law firm, is that it may need to be prorated. Comprehensive plan is for the town as a whole, and the TIF district is just a small portion thereof. But certainly could look at prorating it.
Yeah, I think that was what I was going to follow up with. And so, not knowing precisely what we might need, I'm going to throw out the lower number that John and I talked about today, and that's 10,000. And so if it was $50,000 project altogether, let's say, possibly, it may be less. I just don't know. It's going to depend on what the availability of consultants, and we want to get a top flight consultant, as we did last time around, to help guide us through this. But clearly the TIF is about economic development, and so it could be prorated. A portion of the cost of developing the new plan could be put in the TIF. So if you look at maybe 50, just pull a number, as a total over a period of time, probably over a couple of years anyhow, 10,000 would be a prorated portion in my mind.
The other thing is you're not going to see all those funds expended in 1 year. I mean,
Right.
it's a multi-year project. So I mean, I don't, I wouldn't advocate for funding the whole thing into this budget anyway.
Right, it's gonna be over a couple more years, and I don't know if it'll be that much or not. I mean, we won't know the cost or have a sense of the cost until we do the RFP and decide who we're gonna hire and come up with a scope of service. It's been a long time since we've done a comp plan. But I don't know that the cost of planning has escalated that greatly over the time period, so that's where we're getting our estimates from.
Was the existing comprehensive plan, was that, did it take like 2 or 3 years to develop over time?
Yes. And we had Rich Rothy, who's no longer, I think he's retired now, who helped us that time. An independent planner. But there are lots of other people out there, large firms, small firms. We would throw it out and see what we get once we do an RFP. But it's gonna take a while even to do that. The selectmen all deliver municipal speed, folks. So you impanel a committee, that takes a little time. Then they get together, decide how they're gonna approach this, what they think ought to be in the RFP, you know, where they're going with the whole project. And then you issue the RFP, you do interviews, you select somebody. I mean, I say best case it's fall before you're doing anything, if they appoint this spring, you know, right away. It could take longer, I don't know. Got to do interviews, you got to decide who you're going to put on the committee. But we do have a lot of people, I guess, who are interested now, right, Sue?
Yes, I haven't counted them recently, but I'm going to put it together for the 19th meeting, so you'll know who's applied and see their applications then.
And that all came from the Roadrunner, I guess, article.
The Roadrunner article and the sign has helped
Okay.
some. A couple of people said that.
Okay.
It's good to see the cost for electricity for our streetlights are going down.
LED lights.
Yep.
Great project. Pretty much everybody in Maine has either done that or is doing that. We were kind of an early adopter, but I get inquiries regularly from other towns about it. So it's a universal thing now.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on TIF? Code enforcement.
Hello.
Sorry.
I'm here. I'm here if you guys have any questions. I know we went over everything last time. And I can circle back on any of that if you guys need me to. Joe?
On your sheet, you wrote that your admin's going to full time, but on the spreadsheet on the Excel version, you also have a part-time administrator in there. Do you need a full-timer and a part-timer?
Yeah, I believe you're talking about Sandy. Sandy Fredericks, that's the admin for the Planning and Zoning Board. She is 10 hours a week, some weeks less, but that's usually the max. She basically assists them with their administrative tasks.
Okay, thank you.
She also types up their meeting minutes, right?
Yep.
And attends the meetings, I believe. And you had 6 or so hours just the other night, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, it's good being able to have someone that can spearhead that stuff because there really is a lot involved with it. And it has been nice. She started about a year ago or almost a year ago. And it's been nice having someone who we can send all of that business to, and she handles all of it.
And she came to us from another town and was well experienced, and that was, you know, part of why I decided that it was a good idea to support this initiative. And you know, we've gone from a backlog and a serious issue with some level of complaints about service to no complaints and things running very smoothly. And she, along with Kirsten, are a big part of that, along with the addition of the assistant code officer. So, you know, at first I had the same sort of question, but you know, I'm seeing how it's playing out, and it's working very well. And Kirsten, believe me, has all she can do just with that job of keeping the code office administratively flowing for the code officer and the assistant code officer. significant run up in activity, which is a good thing.
Ralph?
We're having a significant run up in activity. But when I look at the income side on the fees and whatnot, we're only seeing about a 14% or 15% increase on there. Is that real, or is that number still understated?
I think it will be more than that. I'll actually have a better idea tomorrow or probably early next week, because I'll be looking at all the numbers again to see where, the last 3 months are typically the slowest 3 months of the year. So it's usually a good time to look and see how busy we are those months, because it's going to be, you can usually expect to be much busier the next 6 months. But yeah, it's been higher. And, that expected revenue that I put on there is definitely pretty conservative. I didn't want to jump it up too much. I kind of want to see where things go the next year or so. We are talking about, again, looking at permit fees as well, because there's definitely some permit fees that we need to take a better look at. They've been the same for a number of years. And it's something that we need to make sure, again, that we're in line with other towns. The other thing that I know it doesn't really factor in, but we do have a lot more time for enforcement action now. And that enforcement action does include, in hopefully most cases, fines, that come along with it. It offsets some of the legal expenses, but there can be some on the other end as well. So our goal is, now that we have additional help in code enforcement, that we can actually start doing some enforcement, which there really hasn't been a lot of the last 5 years or so.
Well, to answer your question directly, Rolf, I think that probably the increase in both valuation and permit fee activity, as he indicated, we try to ratchet it up, but we also make sure that we don't put a number in that's unrealistic. And I think the one that I'm saying is understated is probably the valuation. But so anyway, that's kind of how we do it. And so, and 14% in and of itself, even if you look at that, I call that significant, but you may not. I don't know.
I guess where I'm going on it is, if we look at the LD1 limits and whatnot, if our income is understated, then we're missing the boat there too, and that has impact on that LD1 calculation. So it's important that we look at those, and I'm going to ask the same question in regards to the on fire safety, as far as the income side there on the reimbursements and whatnot, because if where we are and where that's tracking, and are we above or below on that, because at the end of the day, those are the things that are going to help us in that LD1 calculation as well.
Right, and I, believe me, internally, I speak with Alex and Kurt, and I really was suggesting Kurt a different number, and but he wants to be, he's the professional, he's the guy who's giving the estimate, and as I said, I think it's a low estimate. I think it'll be more. And as for Alex, I think that's probably closer to where we're going to be, but I also think it's somewhat understated, but I don't know by how much. And it's better to be over collected than under collected. So you have to be realistic and to some degree conservative, I think, but not overly so. So that's the tension, that's the debate we have internally.
If I may, Bob?
Go ahead.
Alex, I don't recall, when you were projecting your revenues, was that before, does that include your fee structure proposal increase that will be going before the selectmen in June? It does not. So perhaps there is.
No, that's just based on today's.
Yeah.
Yep.
So perhaps there is some room for increase there. If the selectmen, would.
We could look at, how about this? We could look at the, anticipated revenues from permit fees, assuming that you accept the revised fee schedule, and tell you what that would look like. Based on the estimate that the conservative estimate that Alex has put together with the new schedule, we could do that. Or you could elect, I mean, you're the decision makers, you could elect to be more optimistic, but as I said, I like to be under or on target, then I don't want to be disappointed at the end. And that's kind of been the history of Raymond in the sense of being under expended and over collected.
Any other questions for code enforcement? Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Technology. Teresa.
Kevin, question for Kevin. If the library does come on board and the town votes it in, what are your plans? Do you need more money for that? What are you thinking?
Well, we've been doing it as a citizen, a good citizen right now. So we can
Right.
roll that, we roll that in, and I don't think it'll cost any more for our support, from our standpoint of our contract. The only thing that might be, and I'm concerned that I never heard back from them, the cost of their fiber from the state was free, so their internet was free for that really high level of fiber service, and if we have to pick that cost up, that's a fairly substantial cost, which I did see that you had put it in the budget, but I don't know why the state wouldn't. It's still a library, and I don't know why the state is not allowing that.
Pull it.
Yeah.
I can check on that and find out.
That's a big question, yeah.
So I know you have been doing a lot of service down there, so thank you for that. But I think people may want to understand, that's why I ask you this question, to say, oh no, Kevin's gonna have to come in and change all their computers and stuff like that and all this other stuff that may add to the cost. But I want people to understand that you have been kind of working.
We've been doing the service, and nothing will change. We don't have to change anything down there. They're already using our virtual machines. They're already part of our network. So there really are no changes except for the ongoing service that we provide.
Okay, I will find out that information regarding the fiber from the state.
Any other technology questions? Seeing none, thank you, Kevin. Public safety.
There we go, mouse door. Thank you.
Joe?
Bruce, in your write-up, you say you're gonna try and get 4 new people into your department phased in over 2 years. In your current budget, are you budgeting for all 4 of those people now?
No, there are two positions proposed currently.
Because you got a 25% increase in salary.
Yeah, so the salaries that we put in for, and that was something I needed to cover quickly here because something changed, we had some movement. Were based on the original union proposal, and since then we have actually, because this has been quite a while now, but since then there's been some movement on that, some adjustment. We actually can take $20,000 out based on the current proposal and where we're at. So we got a $20,000 savings right off the top in our bottom line. But those other 2 positions are in there as noted as in my sheet. Hopefully you have the same one as new staff 1 and 2 based on the current proposed rates.
So you're looking at the other 2 next year.
Correct.
And you just sent out the wage and salary benefit from the towns that I just looked at. Raymond's going to be the most well-paid town, pretty much.
You could look at it that way initially for face value. That is for sure. But when you look at it deep down, you'll find that most of those communities are already under negotiations, Unfortunately, they won't disclose where they're at for wages or proposals, but I have to assume that they're going to be probably above ours by the time they're done, probably even above our proposal. I have rumors, and I can go with that, but I just don't have the factual figures as of today.
Don?
The other thing that's important is that we do have a federal SAFER grant that if we're successful, will mitigate the cost of the new positions. We'll provide for them for a 3-year period. And we're not obligated to continue them, although I don't know what we do if we didn't. But if we get that federal grant, and it's highly competitive. I found out, Bruce, in talking to some of my colleagues, a lot of the surrounding towns are doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Difficulty in getting volunteers and so forth. They're paid volunteers, call members. So, but I think, Kathy Goslin is probably involved in this deeply, and she's had a good track record. I know you've been involved in it. So I'm optimistic and hopeful that we'll get those positions funded, or at least, and we've applied for more than 2. And so hope you get a partial award. And we won't know that though till the fall, I think.
That would be correct. It would be the fall when we finally get the word on that. And just kind of anecdotal, but true, is that a couple of years back, we tried to kind of merge with some other towns to do the same proposal as a regional proposal and gain 8 personnel, and the other towns weren't interested in playing. They wanted to do it on their own. So kind of gives you an idea of where we're at. Kind of standing out there all by ourselves in a way other than mutual aid.
But that's changing though. I mean, there's some new discussions that are being led by the county. I'm optimistic because everybody's in the same boat. We're working on an initiative to be able to share personnel very easily across communities, looking to the degree possible. And it looks like, we don't know what those other towns are going to end up at, but they're going to go out. But we're talking about, without any kind of antitrust issue, but looking at, stabilizing and having the wages be comparable. I know the chiefs are talking about that, correct?
Correct, and that pertains particularly to the per diem staff and creating a per diem pool across our 6-town mutual aid group that we've been working close together with to standardize pay rates so that we're at least not in competition with each other on the part-time folks. It will be a pool, so if there's a job open, a position open, we can go to the list, call people, or put it out to them. If they're interested, they'll get the same rate whether they're working in North Yarmouth or in Raymond.
And then it'll be easy for them to travel between the communities. We'll do those things to facilitate, the portability of that, and there won't be any benefit to them probably to jump. It'll be the same, and they can pick one that's close proximity that works for them. Maybe what they like. I mean, some departments are different than others, so there wouldn't be this idea of we're going to jump to somebody because they're, ratcheting pay up.
Correct.
But I'm hoping the big thing is the SAFER grant. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yep, if we're successful, that would be a great thing. It really would be. It's just not getting easier with the call companies. Everybody, again, preaching to the choir, you've all heard me, is in the same boat. We're struggling to do way more with way less. And I'll share when it comes to talking about probably next week or whenever we meet about the other salary stuff, all the open shifts and things like that we're unable to fill. And that you could go pick any town and sit down with them and talk to them, and they'll have the same story to tell you.
So Bruce, can we take that 20,000?
That $20,000 was the original proposal, and it's been dropped by that much. So yeah.
For negotiations so far.
Through negotiations so far, yes.
All right, so let's make sure we make a note of that.
Oh yeah,
I've written it down as well. So yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do that.
I mean, Bruce, what's your feeling on where that on the supply side, as far as the people you're looking to bring in? I mean, right now, that market is so darn tight that, everybody's looking for the same body. And,
correct.
I mean, is it realistic that you're going to be able to get those 2, or are you going to,
Yeah, well, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on it, but yes, I'm pretty confident at this level. We're looking at firefighter EMTs. No, not looking at paramedics at this level. That's one that when we put out, we've usually had pretty good reception and gotten a lot of applicants on that. There is Westbrook's having a problem filling theirs. I know Portland's hiring now. We see them everywhere. So we are in high competition, and that's where we need to be very competitive to be able to get and attract those folks and then be able to keep them. And I think that's important that everybody gets to hear that. It's easier to keep people than it is to rehire and retrain and re-outfit. And it's also way cheaper to do that in the long run. You might pay a little bit more up front, but a set of gear is $2,700. You know, if you buy it sized for me, and the next person you hire, because I leave, is 5'2", it doesn't fit them right, you can't use it. It becomes an additional expense. So we consider all of those issues and try to be in that competitive range, and I think that that's where we're headed. So,
another thing, you know, are you seeing some stabilization finally on the drug price increases? You've only gone up about $1,000 on that, and that's, I mean, that's a big volatile area there.
It is, and Kathy can comment on this one. There's one particular med that has gone through the roof, and a couple others that are becoming very hard to get, and etc. But Kathy, why don't you jump in and go through those?
What we're finding, Rolf, is we're finding shortages, and I know Joe can probably speak to that too. I mean, we can't even get our saline flushes right now because those syringes have been used for vaccines. They just added IV Tylenol this year to one of the drugs that we have to carry. And if I want to buy it through Boundtree, Tylenol IV, they're putting it $300 a shot. Okay, I can give them Tylenol pills for about 30 cents, but they wanted to give us by IV. So that's just an example. We're finding that there's shortages of drugs. There's a lot of competition out there, you know, which vendor we can get them from. But I think we're going to be somewhat okay. Maine Med's been really good. We go through their pharmacy, purchase a lot of our drugs, and they're keeping the price down. So that's been helpful. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed.
And then I guess, I mean, the other, I'm assuming though that that gets passed through on that billing side too, correct? That, you know,
No.
so.
Well,
no, the meds do not. They no longer, we have to follow what Medicare and Medicaid pay. And they know they do a BLS level. So if you're basic life support, you get a charge for that. Then there's 2 ALS levels, ALS 1 and ALS 2. ALS 2 is when you use 3 or more medications. So you get a little bit of a bump, but we no longer, you know, years ago, they said if you had an IV, it was so much money. If you had this drug, it was so much money. You know, supplies were so much. Now it's just basically a lump sum based on that. Our prices are going up a little bit. I know, Rolf, you had mentioned the billing. Net payments on our billing so far year to date. Sorry, I gotta put glasses on. Net is 142,000. Last year we had 176,000. So we upped the budget, as Cherie said in the beginning, to 175. And we should be good with that. Be able to make that no problem. Maybe even 180, but we don't want to push it.
I go back, because one thing I kind of forgot to mention, Joe, when you talked about salaries, is that we also assumed Mary Quirk into our budget last year as administration, and she's working in the front office, and that's also reflected in this budget, and that's a new addition that wasn't there last year. So I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that.
But it has been there in prior years.
Mary has been there. Well, yes. We had one that we dropped it. We assumed it as a paramedic position at that point.
Right. We had somebody in Pete Holmquist who was here with us for a number of years, but he took a public safety position in another town. So then we had it unfilled for a year or two, maybe.
Yeah. We just used it as staff in the field at that point. So,
and I guess what happened, I don't want to speak for you. I don't want to speak for you, but what happened during that time is that you and Kathy both were pretty overwhelmed by a lot of the administrative paperwork that you have to deal with in addition to running calls and managing the department, if that's right.
Correct.
And Mary has worked out well?
Mary's working
Very
out
well.
very well. Yeah.
Any other questions for the public safety? For the public safety. Then we'll move on to animal control. Don, did you have something? Don, did you have a question?
No, I was scratching my head.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I don't think we invited the animal control officer, did we, Sharice? I'm not sure. And maybe she should have the budget schedule, though, correct?
Yes. She made it to our, was it our first meeting?
Well, she was at the last meeting.
Jessica came to the last one, but I don't see her here tonight. Is she here soon now? But I'll do the best I can if you have questions.
Did anyone see where Jessica made the radio the other day about a call with chickens? It was kind of interesting.
She was also on television, and apparently she's going to be on the Kelly Clarkson show, which I'm not familiar with, but I guess that's a big show.
Well, she talked about how she put the chickens in the back of her truck, like her vehicle, and then they climbed up front and sat on her shoulder while she drove, and she went through Dunkin' Donuts and got them donut crumbs and stuff. And
It was cute.
it was comical.
It was. People need a laugh, you know, so.
We have replaced, Nathan's been involved in it. The other town managers, myself, we did replace her car, which was a surplus state police K9 unit. We flipped the equipment from the 14 Ford Explorer into a 19 that we got through an auto broker. It came out of a police department. And so she has a new, better car, and there is some expense to outfitting that new car, and that's in Public Works. Nathan takes care of that, but we bill it back to the other towns. It's a three-way split on everything. So we should be good to go with that car, hopefully for another, period of years. It's been all dog or animal equipped. They take out the interior and put the aluminum and metal and cages and all the things. So basically from the front seats back, it's no longer a passenger car. But we took the passenger car interior out of the one that we bought and put that in the old one. So that's going to go to auction next week, which should hopefully get us $6,000 or $7,000 towards our capital expense for the new one. The new used one.
So I'm assuming that we're paying 500 and her total gas budget is 1,500. Is that correct?
Sharice, you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's Raymond's share.
No, okay. Just with people filling up their tanks right now, like for one fill up, it's hitting $90, $100. So
Yeah, fortunately, Nathan's got, we're locked in, excuse me, with our gas and diesel rates until June 30th, but we don't know what those are going to be.
Okay, good.
And starting in July.
Okay.
Any last questions for animal control? Public Works. No questions for Public Works? How's that sand and salt holding out?
Good. We're good.
Good, we're good.
We didn't run out.
Nathan, no talk so much.
No news is good news. Quietly slide under the radar.
Well, thank you, Nathan. Solid waste while we have you. Nothing for solid waste? Town buildings.
Oh, Joe.
Sorry, Joe.
On solid waste, where are we with recycling?
Well, we have a recycling committee that's been meeting monthly. Rolf's a member, and I expect they'll be writing a report. Are you talking in terms of expenditures?
Yes.
Okay, that's,
Whether or not we're gonna stay with it.
well, that's what I'm getting to. So basically, we're in the process of, coming to a final report. I don't want to, speculate too much, but my sense is that if the mission originally was to look at, not doing recycling, I don't believe it's going that direction. I would let Ralph, as a member, maybe speak on that if he's willing.
And there's still research that's going on, but I mean, Kathy is on, Kathy Goff.
Yeah, that's
is on
true too, right.
too, as well as Karen Lockwood. So there's,
Right.
but there's a number of different things that are being looked at. But we're under contract with Casella that goes out for another couple of years. So I mean, if we're doing any changes, it's not going to be an overnight change. It'll have, anything that's changed, it would be phased in or whatever, as far as I would believe, because we're still under contract there. But they've been in some of the meetings and given presentations of things too. So yes, and all those are available on the web.
And I would say that the other thing thank you, Rolf, and I didn't realize I should have. We had two more members of the committee. There's a lot of all in the family here in our town committees. But anyway, they are looking at ways to mitigate costs by getting the wet food waste out. So that's a area of discussion. They're looking at education, to improve the quality of the recyclables. But no final decisions have been made. But I remember the original charge, and I think that's what you're speaking about, right? Yeah. So, but I guess we need to wait till the end, right? Recycling committee members? I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in on it. Kathy, Karen?
I think when you say you want a recycling committee, the people you're gonna get to volunteer for a committee like that are people that want to recycle more. And I think that's one thing the committee is finding. But we are looking at, can you do more of the composting, more of the other things? We've had some really good presentations by the companies, and it's been interesting to find out where the money goes in that. And you're going to see, I think the committee is going to want to encourage recycling, but also, as Dawn said, reduce the weight of the trash by taking the food waste out, because that's about 40% of our trash. And if we can reduce that, then we'll save some money.
Thank you, Kathy. And Karen's been attending some statewide meetings, and I think you plan to do that again this year, correct? And so you get a sense of what other towns are doing and whatnot.
Yes, I plan to attend a seminar that's coming up, I believe, in early May. And they have some good topics to attend.
Teresa?
So I hate bringing this up now because we're talking budgets, but I'm going to put this out there. So what are the hopes maybe of possibly getting something to do with the dump back in Casco? Kathy's like, no. No.
You're saying to participate in the transfer station with them?
As far as having a place to take our
Oh, you're talking bulky waste.
yes.
Bulky waste. There are many options for bulky waste, Teresa, besides Casco. I recommend the former MWAC main waste action, I guess now, but if you looked at MWAC, are you talking because of the price of being a non-member to go to Casco?
I haven't had to go to Casco, which is good, but I know we had it before, and I know people want somewhere close is what it is, instead of having to go far. Don't raise your hand, Nathan. Don't do it.
Nathan, go ahead.
You've been quiet this whole time. Don't do it now.
Well, we've got the Casco transfer station, and you've got Kinsella Waste on over in Naples, which is they're pretty easy to deal with. And Don said MWAC, they're a little bit.
It's actually Maine Waste to Energy. I don't know why they changed their name. MWAC was so easy to remember, but yeah.
So the place in Auburn.
So, all right, because I think we weren't allowed to go to Casco currently. I thought that they were closed.
You can go to Casco, you pay a non-resident rate.
It's
Okay,
not free.
Yeah, but you only can do bulky waste. We've never been able to go to their MSW side or the recycling side. We were only allowed into the bulky waste side. Never been
Right.
able to take our household trash over there.
And in the past, when I've come to you with, and I don't do it anymore, but way back when I came to you with alternatives, it's kind of like the third rail of Raymond government. I think people like the system that we have. It's a very convenient and full service system, a premium service to be sure. And if you look at it environmentally, you got your pickup roadside with one truck or two trucks with recycling, and you're avoiding hundreds of cars to go somewhere else to the transfer stations. That's one. If you look at environmental savings as that, and then the time and effort to do it, I think the selectmen over a long period of time have said they like the system of the roadside collection of MSW and recycling, and we've not adopted a paper bag system. I brought that up a number of years ago. So there are some things that you could do if you want to mitigate costs, but we have a premium service when it comes to the MSW collections, and
right.
I think that's something we have wanted to do.
I'm just thinking the big stuff.
That's bulky waste, and there's a lot of places you can take it.
I wrote them down. Thank
All
you.
right.
Go ahead, Sue.
We have a sheet in the town office that we give out on a very regular basis that has a list of all the places, what they take, what their contact information is. So the public's welcome to come in and get it as our select board members.
And by way of history, why we got rid of it was we were appropriating $150,000 and it was increasing. And we looked at the number of people who were using it. It was a very small group that was populated by a lot of contractors, in fact. And so then we went to a coupon system, gave people,
Yep.
a couple £1,000 or something a year. And the selectmen in those days eventually decided that it would be more appropriate, and a lot of towns do it this way, as a user pay. So we withdrew from the bulky waste, and that's where it's been. It's a
Who
user
were those
pay.
selectmen that did that?
I couldn't tell you now. It's been a long time ago. I don't remember.
Just joking. Just
Yeah.
joking.
It's a long time ago.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for my next project,
But at the time, it was a budget savings, and it was seen as something that is so, specific to an individual that it would be, you could pay and not use it, or a lot of people were using it a lot.
Mm.
So. Or some people using it a lot, I should say.
Any other questions on solid waste?
Nope.
Okay, let's move on to town buildings.
Don't do it, Teresa.
I was gonna ask, but I thought we already passed it. I'm gonna shut up. Nobody else asked. I'm gonna let it go. Don't.
Nothing for town buildings? Cemeteries.
That's Sue. Are you dying to speak about anything?
I think the only thing I would say is I really truly appreciate the support the select board and the budget finance committee have given to the $3,500 a year that I put into restoring the old parts of the cemetery. If any of you have had a chance to look at it, it's really quite nice looking. So, and it's preserving the historic value of the stones so you can still read them and whatnot. So that I do appreciate.
Thank you, Sue, for the work you're doing on the cemeteries.
Thank you.
Let's start with recreation, then we'll move on to Tassel Top.
Happy to answer any questions.
You're taking the Nathan approach here, Joe. You don't want to make some sort of a statement about where we've been over your inaugural I guess it's your second year, but.
Yeah.
A lot's
It's been
happened.
2 years. No, it's been great. I kind of did some, I like to do a calendar year of revenues to kind of, because that's when things will get split, like a lot of my programs or events get split in the fiscal year. We reached in total with Tasseltop and programs and events, $144,000 in revenues. So that's a really good indicator of kind of the activity that's going on in Raymond. So thank you guys for supporting that. And now that we have hopefully a normalized year coming up, that it's going to continue to grow and continue to be active for the community.
Teresa?
So Joe, I've had a couple people ask me what's going on down at Sherry Gagnon Playground. You might want to do some kind of update on Raymond Rec or something. They said,
Okay.
where's all the equipment going? So
The playground?
yeah.
Okay, yep, that's being installed there.
Yep. So if you can just give some kind of an update on Raymond Rec or whatever, so people can
Yeah,
see it.
I'll put it up on the Facebook page and
Okay.
yeah, we'll give an update. Nathan and his crew and our parks foreman did get the swings in, so that's good. We hope to get that in this spring as well, the playgrounds. I'll make an update.
You've been steadily kicking off new programs and collaborating with other towns, collaborating with the chamber. I know you've been working with a lot of entities to try to bring new things to Raymond, which I think the families with younger children are really appreciating. That's what I'm hearing anyway.
Now's a good time to put a plug in for anything that you need, like any kind of donations or anything like that.
If anyone wants to donate Easter baskets for prizes, that's going to be coming up on April 16th. We have 61 children registered right now
Wow.
and counting. So
wow.
We expect a lot of gift card donations from the chamber, Cdl Lakes Chamber. So they've been really good partners on that front. But we like to give any like a basket prize. So if you find a golden egg, you can get a basket to choose from, and so we are looking for those as well.
We
also
have
start our. Oh, go ahead, Don.
I was going to say we have our donated bus from the RSU ready to go.
Yeah, we'll be looking to partner with SAC. They're going to be doing a summer camp program through RES this year, summer. So to help with transportation costs, drive them to Tasseltop Park, and so a little short field trip. So we'll get the children out of the school and into our parks, and I think that's going to be a great feature of that program. So looking forward to that.
Does a school bus driver need any special credentials?
Well, it's me for right now.
Okay.
So you just need the CDL Class B and passenger endorsement. So I don't need the school bus endorsement because we changed the paint color.
Would we help somebody obtain that classification? Some local person might want to do that. Would we help them?
We can, yeah, we can try. Go ahead, Nathan. You have something to add?
Can't on the CDL license anymore. You have to go to school after
No,
January.
I'm saying, but you give them some time I know you've done that in the past with your guys. You can't
do that anymore. You have to, federal government changed Cdl licensing rules, went into effect in January. Any change in class from anything from C all the way up through is have to go to a Northeast driving school or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's $4,000 to $6,000. That's going to really hurt stuff like this, public works departments and small operations.
And you have to have that before you obtain the CDL.
Correct.
Wow.
God, we changed the color for nothing, Joe.
Joe's our bus driver.
There are many caps.
Any other questions for Joe?
No.
I see none. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, it looks like Dennis does. Dennis Morse.
Oh, sorry. Good. Dennis, you're muted.
Okay. So now can you hear me?
Yep.
Now that my grandson is starting to play sports, I'm starting to notice things around the fields, and I'm curious which line is for mowing. Several times we went down, and is it the project and maintenance where mowing comes in, or is it something that the school does? T-ball in particular, the lower fields.
Is that Sherry Gagnon Park on Mill Street? Is that what?
No.
No,
it's-
T-ball's at the school, Jordan Small Middle School, I believe.
Right.
Yep. No, the school does that.
Yeah, that's through RSU 14.
School does that.
School does that.
Mm-hmm.
They have a full-time maintenance staff up there to mow all the Jordan Small.
I only went twice, and the grass was about 6 inches tall on a Saturday, so they mustn't work during the week. They must mow on Sunday.
No, that's unusual. He's done a pretty good job up there. Tom's the one that takes care of that. He's got quite a bit of mowing up there, so I think it's one of those deals that life's all about timing. You might have hit it at the wrong time, but he usually keeps that stuff pretty good up there.
And the other question I had is the benches there, the racks were all, some of the planks were loose, and I didn't know if that was a ongoing project. You could see where they were doing some work.
That's all with the school. We'd have to ask the school about that.
Okay, so there's nothing in here for the fields except the Sherry Gagnon on Mill Street?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I guess we should think about that field as well as the school. I believe that comes back to us if the school does.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that will be our field. Yeah.
All
go
the
ahead.
properties that we signed over to them come back to us,
Right.
except for RES.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, actually, what we were looking for is who to talk to mow Saturday morning early, if it needed mowing. That's really where I was asking.
I'll give Tom a call and see what his schedule is coming up, but I'm assuming everything that's done at the school goes through the school, and Tom would be up to speed on it, but I can definitely raise the question tomorrow when I see him.
I don't mind volunteering, but either way, Nathan, I'll talk to you later about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for recreation? Then we'll move over to Tasseltop. Go ahead, Teresa.
All right, Joe, when we started you on staff and hired you on, it was slow because it was COVID. Hit us pretty hard. And so I know you were building things up, Tasseltop, a little bit of time. I know you've made a lot of changes and things are opening up, and now you've taken on Raymond Rec. Are you doing okay? Seriously, I want to make sure you're not superly overwhelmed that you leave us or whatever. I guess I just want to make sure that you're good to go.
No, it's been the workload is definitely not slowing down, which is how I think we kind of predicted it once we acquired all these different entities. I've got really good volunteer support right now. A lot of the programming. Nathan, his crew, and adding Parks Foreman, our Parks Foreman Eric has been a huge load off my shoulders as well. I've taken on a lot of those big projects and some of the project planning. So Nathan's been helping out a lot. We couldn't do it without him. So we're doing well. I would think probably next year we'll be looking at a shared admin between Nathan and I to help with kind of the phone call volume that comes through, some of the organizing and some of the back end stuff on my end of managing the memberships, the customers service type piece of administrating the programs, stuff like that. So I'm doing all right.
I thought that was it. I thought that part-time admin was in there now. Am I missing it?
Yeah, I think we took that out. We want to make sure that we had a space first.
And
I think
we haven't, oh, sorry, Nate, go ahead.
Well, I and Joe had talked to Melissa about trying to help us out with that. She's there 5 days a week, or 4 days a week, I'm sorry. And we were talking to her about possibly coming down here for 2 and working up there for 2 with Kurt. The problem, like Joe just said, we've got to get the facility down here a little bit more acceptable and a little bit more safer work environment for that.
Can she work at the town office, but give her a different line?
It seems on paper to work really well, but when you're down here and everything's down here and it's a 4-mile trip up to the office, you get up there, you forgot something, you got to come back down. We're trying to make it a little easier. We don't have a storefront. Joe's finding that to be more necessary than I do. That's the other problem, is having a place to, where do you go?
Okay. And Joe, your maintenance guy, some good news with him?
You're talking about Barry?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, he's him and Karen are working their way back up, but we won an award through the Maine Recreation Parks Association for outstanding parks. So I'd like to present that when he gets here, and it's definitely well deserved, and
That's
it's
cool.
great to
That's
honor
really
him.
good.
Yeah, I wish he could have made it up, but
Oh, that
he's
is
enjoying
good.
the sun in Florida.
So great. All right, I'm done. Sorry.
Dennis?
Joe, I'm impressed with the revenues. I was on the committee for a little while, and I'm curious as to the increase in the cabin rentals. Is that because you're going up on the weekly rate, or is it just the demand has come back on what you're proposing?
No, that's a good question. We actually just increased the weeks. I think we made when I first got here, I think we might have made $100 increase on the cabin rental. But it stayed at around $1,100, $1,200. $90 of that is because of the lodge and tax estate issue. So that's $90 of that. No, it's just we increased the weeks from 11 to 21.
Wow. And it's in the book.
Yeah, it's awesome. Barry's done a lot of work too to kind of extend the life of the cabin and really bring it into the fall season and early spring. So from Memorial Day till about October, we have booked. So I think we have 20 weeks right now, the 21.
And it's $1,200 a week now?
And it's $1,200 a week. And I get, around the season, I get about 20 calls.
I recommend
a week about the cabin. So.
Well, great job. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dennis.
And aren't we going to look at other, things that could generate revenue and also generate community interest down there to utilize without, doing anything that would adversely affect the rustic, feeling and use of the park? So not development issues, but, we do have some ideas on, having that be a community venue and, for other things that could generate revenue.
Yeah, the top priority, and I think the immediate necessity is the public bathrooms down there, getting a septic station. That's got to be priority 1, and priority 2 would probably be getting Barry a maintenance shed not near the cabin, and something a little bit more modern. So that's probably priority 2 for us looking ahead for projects.
Kathy?
Just so the budget committee knows, I know the selectmen know, but with the opera funds that we got this year, the priority of that is to do the septic system in the bathrooms. So hopefully, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of next fall, won't be for this season, but hopefully the septic field will be put in for this fall, with the bathrooms to be for 2024 summer season.
Yep.
So we hope we should have enough funds in the ARPA funds, so that won't come out of the tax dollars at all.
Yes, and once we get that piece, then definitely those other revenue generators, possibly more cabins. talked about a pavilion that could house, farmers markets, stuff like that, craft shows. That's definitely in the master plan in the future. So we're still in phase 1.
How did your winter carnival go?
It was surprisingly, it was perfect weather, perfect everything. We had over 250 people attend. It was one of the best events I've ever been to. And the PTO, it funded a lot of their programs and scholarships and materials for teachers and all that stuff, field trips. So it was a very great partnership, and the support was awesome.
It's good to hear. Any other questions for Rec or Tasseltop? I see none. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
RTP. No one wants to speak about RTP.
Oh, we already discussed it early on.
1,000.
Then we'll move on. Raymond Village Library. Whose idea was it for the library to finally merge with the town? Did we go to them and say we want the library, or do they come to us and say we want you to have the library? Don't hide your face.
We went to them.
Well, the answer was yes.
Yeah, yes on all of it.
I can't be correct all the time.
It kind of went. It was both sides looked at it, and their board there was receptive to looking at that. They obviously they had to have discussions among themselves to see if they wanted to be taken over. But there was positive feelings on both sides of it.
It's a very good idea.
Go.
So what is the number to run this as a town department? Because when I look at the sheet that was provided by the library, their FY23 budget is $191,850. Yet, if they run as an independent nonprofit, their FY23 budget is $149,263. Why is it so much higher to run it as a town entity?
Does it? I'm wondering if it has the. I don't do their budgets. I don't do the budget.
Thank God for that.
Shut up, Joe. Can we block him out? No. I'm wondering if it's because of the insurances and stuff, but I'm not positive.
You have the employee benefits. You have the an attempt over time to get to a market wage. Those are a couple drivers. Charisse?
I also noticed that they add employees to run it as a town department. Yet if they run as a nonprofit, they cut hours for their directors.
There's 3 people that work there.
Right.
Right.
So if you look, they increase hours for their
I'm sorry, Joe? What was that?
Their adult service librarian is 40 hours.
Yep.
Right?
Children is 25.
Right. The wages are a lot lower. So they become a town department and we give everybody a raise and the town picks up that cost. Why doesn't the budget just transfer from what they would run it at to the town? They provide health insurance, they do all that.
No,
Oh,
they don't
They
do
don't
health
provide
insurance.
health insurance?
No,
and the wage
So
that they
what
pay-
number are we looking at? Is it 191,000? Is it 136,000? I mean, the numbers are everywhere and we don't have a good number.
It's 201, Joe, after I had plugged in some, we've been in touch with our salary analysis company, KMA, and we looked at their wages, what they're currently making, and over time, we want to get them to a marketable wage adjustment, as well as the other full-time employee and the other part-time employee. We're looking to incorporate benefits, health insurance benefits, and dental benefits, which they presently do not get. And I don't believe they are getting retirement as of right now, any type of retirement program. So that's the big driver. But then Allison and I, we kind of looked through this a little bit finer in, some of the actual line items. So you might see some minor changes in that respect, but it's primarily salaries and benefits.
I thought that 201,000 included the 66 that the town gave them.
It
So
does
shouldn't
not.
it be less than that? So it's 201,000 to run something that they say they can run for 140.
but they're also putting in more hours. Because on here it's looking 40 hours and I don't think the library's 40 hours right now. They just added another day because they were 3 days before, and then they just added in, I believe, another day now. So it's upping their hours also.
So upping their hours is costing the town $60,000.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't do the budget.
That really doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense at all that it's going to cost the town $60,000 more to run something they can run for 149,000.
No, because again, we're adding in the benefits.
But why are we giving them such a huge increase
It's
when
not-
they were working for what they were
Well,
being paid?
What I would say about that, what I'm hearing is that we're kind of on a break point with respect to retention. I mean, I don't want to speak for, people possibly not being there, but if you look at the wages that they're getting and the wages that we're going to, that they are not, particularly high wages, particularly the ones they're being paid now. And, then they have to buy their healthcare from that if they have healthcare. And so the idea was to take a look at the survey of libraries, public libraries, and to try over time to get to the midpoint of that KMA private sector salary analysis. So it is significantly more than what they're getting, but it isn't a huge wage, I should say. It's a market wage, a midpoint market wage over, I think we're gonna try that over a couple of years, Sharice. So yeah, it's a change, but right now, I mean, I'll let Teresa, you're on the board, you can speak to what you think of wages and benefits, I guess.
The wages and benefits are awful. They are. And that's one of the things that they have a hard time because, they're raising money. So they're trying to keep them there, don't lose them. But they can definitely find better paying jobs somewhere else. And I hate to lose them. They're good. They're good for the community. They're good for the library. They offer a lot of programs on a very tight budget.
And how long have they been there?
It's time for a change, Joe.
I'm asking a question. How long have they been there?
Allison and them?
Yeah.
Don't know. I've been
I
on
would
the board.
say Allison's been there about 3 or 4 years, maybe, something like that. That's my guess.
I think another way to think about it is that they've been working for a discount. Like we've been getting their labor at a discounted rate because it hasn't been at market value. And the people who have been paying that difference are the people who are not being paid the market rate. That's the people who are doing the work. And you have to have a master's to be a librarian in a lot of positions, and to ask someone with a master's to come for no benefits and under market value salary is a hard ask. So I think it's important to
Very
keep
well
that in
put.
mind.
Very well put.
I'm just saying, it's awfully hard to spend $60,000 more because it becomes a town department than when it was a nonprofit. Now, they've been working there the whole time. They may be underpaid, but they choose to work there. Why isn't it more phased in? Why don't we go to 175,000 and then next year go up? I mean, it just seems like a big chunk of money to be spending, and I know it's sacrilegious, it's a library, to question the dollars here.
But Joe, I think $60,000 more for the benefits and the wages, is not a lot more.
Oh, you're talking $140,000 more to the town is what you're talking.
I know, but again, I think there's so many things. And if we're going to bring them in as a town department, then we're going to treat them as a town department. You know, we do the wage studies for everybody else. And like Abigail was just saying, I do believe Allison has a master's as far as the librarian goes. And again, they do it because I got to say, there are people that do jobs for just the money. And then there's people that do jobs because they love the job. And they don't get paid crap, but they do it because they love it. And I do have to say there's 3 people there that do a good job for crap.
Any other thoughts of the library? Then we'll move on to the next one. General assistance.
We are seeing more general assistance through the pandemic. Thankfully, we also have our community assistance fund to help to mitigate those costs. And so we have had a number of people put us on their charitable giving program, I guess. And so we're very thankful for that. And but for us, it's a an increase over what we have seen. But we do have a reimbursement from the state at the
70%.
70%. So 70% reimbursement, but it's a larger number for us, but it's a small number for a town our size.
Any questions?
The other thing, Bob, I'd just like to mention that this is one of the areas that by state statute is allowed to go over budget, as well as road improvements. So that is, one of the cost centers, if you will, that can overrun without, penalties or question. We do have a very good general administrator. I must say that she does a very good job, and she seems to enjoy it.
I would agree.
Yes, she does.
We'll move on to RSU 14.
That's out of our control. I tell you.
Who's going to speak on that one?
That's just a placeholder as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if that school district, from where I came, the superintendent actually did a presentation before, the selectmen. I don't know if the RSU 14 does do that with us. They don't.
They used to when they were in town, we did, but now they do have a validation of the budget though.
Right.
You could thank John Baldacci for that, because when he pushed for the consolidations and whatnot, he decided that towns really didn't need to review the school budgets. They would do it as a public hearing, and that was that. So you can thank him for the fact that they do not have any beholden to us as far as presentations.
I think there's maybe that 30, maybe 35 people go to those down in Wyndham.
Sue?
I did have a conversation with Superintendent Howell this afternoon, just before we closed, and they are going to do an in-person validation meeting this year. Again, it will be on May 18th. I'll be getting it on the website and on the sign and whatnot tomorrow. But that's something to look forward to.
Any other questions on the schools? Now, there was a proposal for saving revenue for keeping the buildings updated, or when we do take ownership of them, we would have funds available.
Nathan, can you speak to that? I think you talked to Bill Hanson about that, did you?
I don't even know how to answer that question, Bob. We need to look at it, and I don't know what the number is to set aside for that. I suggested 100,000, which I think is quite high, but we're gonna know better here in the next year when we're gonna get them, and I don't have a good answer for that, Bob.
I guess I misunderstood the question. I thought the question was the school can allocate some monies that they're not going to do some improvements because they're moving out and they have.
Oh, the money allocated for their.
Is that the question, or is it the other question?
No, it was the money that we were putting aside.
Okay.
Oh, that was the 100,000. I set aside. I asked to set aside 100,000 for that and 100,000 for Public Works Garage to get this conversation sparked up. Talking 23 or 4 budget season that facility is going to be turned over to us. That's
not until 26.
Yeah, see, Bill told me 23, 24, and I just talked to him today, and he reassured me it was 23 or 24. So that's where the problem comes in, because the numbers all over the place. And Joe mentioned that in the meeting, our first presentation. So I think at this point, I would have to agree with everybody that we just find it out, see what happens.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. What did Bill Hanson tell you we were going to get the building when?
He talked about the 23-24 budget year. That would be when their building's going to be done, and they're going to be turning it over to us.
No, they're not even going to build the build. They're not going to be into their new school until 2026 is what it is. And Chris Howe and I talked the other day, and he gave me a list of everything that they've updated at Jordan Small. It's in on my desk in the other room, so I can send that out to you guys. But he said he gave me a big list as to what all has already been done for the school. But it is a process. They won't be moving into their school until 2026. And the board does have to vote on it. My concern is I don't want to jump ahead too fast because I don't want to jinx it. And then they use it for some adult education and we don't get it as a community service building.
Well, there's a lot of steps to it. The school's got to vote whether they're going to vote whether we're going to accept it.
Exactly.
But what Bill Hanson told me is their only intention is to turn it back to the town of Raymond. So
that's what Chris said too. Yeah. Yes.
There's no other. They aren't even entertaining any other option.
But they're saying that the board still has to vote.
Oh yeah, both boards have to. The board of selectmen has to vote to take it. They have to vote to give it up. Yeah, this process to this still.
Rolf knows it's 2026 that they're even thinking to get in that building.
So we're a ways out.
Yeah.
Sam, I keep muting you because you have background noise behind you that we're hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
So, that was I was trying to get ahead of that, and we've got plenty of time.
Yeah, Don, we discussed this last time, and I'm in agreement with Joe that we wait a little bit, and of course we can bond, but we're going to need some development money, and in that regard, it's kind of a chicken and egg problem, but we have time to think about it. We don't have to do it this year. We don't have. you could set aside money, capital reserve budgeting, but we have a very good, bond rating, and so we can, borrow money, inexpensively. But then again, you do have to have the money to do the renovations and try to get in it. So we get to this issue of with Wyndham, and I guess we should assume that it will be the same for us. They're turning over their school to Wyndham for reuse, and they have monies that are budgeted, the school does, for certain improvements that they won't be making now because they're not going to be there. And my understanding is that money can be utilized by us, that we can have, and that's what I was asking you to speak about. I was confused about the question.
I was confused too. I'm sorry, Don.
No, I confused it. I was the one wrong. You understood his question correctly. But on his question, I'm saying, let's go with Joe's approach. Now I'm to the other thing about school money.
Because I know they were going to do the new safety at the Jordan Small School. They were going to put money into that, putting the office out front like they did at RES, but they're not going to do that now because why spend it on it? But I don't think we can get monies from them for that. Can we?
I think we can.
What I understand, there's money that goes into their budget that is earmarked for upgrades to that building, and that goes with the building, from what I understand. I don't know how that works. Don knows a little bit more about it than
I don't know a lot about it, but there is going to be some money in some sort of a fund, I guess, that will be turned over to us with the buildings for things that they would have done but aren't doing because they're not going to be there. That's all I understand about it. And Joe, you might have talked to me about that because you're on the committee in Wyndham. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm on the ad hoc community center.
So tell us about what happens with the community center in Wyndham, which is going in their school, right?
Well, I think it's gonna be the same scenario that we're going in, because the Wyndham Middle School, they're obviously gonna be going to the new school, right? Jordan Small students are gonna go to the new Wyndham Middle School. So the old Wyndham Middle School will be turned over to the town. Same as Raymond. There was talks about, some funding from the state that goes into the building that could be used for updates and upgrades prior to the town taking it over. So it's definitely, that was a conversation that happened in our committee. It's the same RSU, so I wonder if that would stand for Jordan Small as well. It could be different too with what's been earmarked for Wyndham Middle School rather than Jordan Small Middle School. So it could be a different scenario, but that's what was talked about.
Kathy?
I remember last year, they got a lot of that funding, that they did like at RES for the whole safety stuff from the state grant. So they had it for RES and Jordan Small School. So if they got it from a grant, it probably has to go with that building. That was Department of Education, I believe.
We can get clarification on it, but I would think that the goose gander rule would apply. If they're turning funds over to Wyndham, they should be doing that with us for improvements they're not doing.
And that was a discussion before COVID. So, around 2 years ago. So, I mean, that things could have changed, but that was talked about as incentive for the town of Wyndham to take over that building as a community center. So that would help with the transition, from going from school building to town building.
So I think what we should do is maybe Nathan, me and Nathan, we should get together with Bill Hanson and talk about that.
Just looking at my notes, and construction is 23, 24 is what I think what he's talking about. So yeah, it'd be 26. But yeah, I think we at least should start the conversation with them, Don, and get it. This is a huge undertaking.
Right, and if they've got some money that they are not going to utilize that comes in a reserve fund to us, maybe that's where we get our seed money to look at the development and the engineering planning, and then we, as Joe suggests, go to a bond for the work itself. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to look at all that.
Well, we've got $35,000 a year for facility upgrades. I mean, that's a start towards it.
Right, maybe you start towards the development and planning piece, but the renovation of school is going to be a large ticket. Yeah. But it's also going to be when it's complete. If you look at a good example would be Gorham and what they did with their old elementary school, I think it was. It's a spectacular facility, and that could be the case at Jordan Small. You've got the space there to have a community center, library, town office, You know, you could have an adult ed center, you name it, the space is there. So it's an exciting opportunity, but it's a ways out. And so I think we should look at what funds might help us from the school, if any. And if they're doing that with Wyndham, they should be doing it with us, I would hope. And so then look at, as Nathan says, we do have some development funds. We could perhaps bulk those up a little bit as we get closer. But the big money is going to come from a bond to renovate it, I think.
Any other questions for the schools? Employee benefits.
Can I be quiet and slide under the radar on this one?
Sure, go ahead, Therese.
The biggest change with this particular cost center, I'm hoping everybody recalls, but I was hoping that the board would consider amending their retirement program for employees and the personnel policy. Right now, it's a tiered approach, and it's really not competitive in the marketplace. We have several employees. I mean, it starts out, you know, at 1% after 1 year, then it jumps up 1%, you know, as you tenure with the town. And, you know, we have several employees that, you know, they're either at the 1% match, 2%, 3%, 4%. And it's so that particular line item for retirement was factoring in what I would hope the selectmen would look to doing an amendment to the personnel policy retirement plan to be more in line with other municipalities on what they offer. I mean, it's not main PERS, but it certainly, you know, get up to, I would recommend a 6% match, up to 6% match, and which means doubling, basically doubling that particular expense. And then factoring in, of course, premium increases, you know, they're not going to go down by any means. And we did have a slight increase, but we also changed, you know, made a slight change in our health insurance plan in January. So but it was very minimal, and it's very comparable to last year's plan. And that's about it. And because when you increase wages, you increase the Social Security costs. Social Security and Medicare contribution.
I would agree with her on the tiered system. Nobody's doing that now. That's a vestige of, you know, the past. It carried over from the original personnel policy. It never changed, but, you know, it's not something that we've, you know, thought about. I think it came about through the difficulty of administering it for one issue, you know, trying to keep track of where everybody is. And, you know, in surveying other communities, looking at what is provided, generally speaking, you go through a probationary period and then you go to a rate. You don't do it over a period of years like we've been doing. And around us, I think the rate is about 6%. That's pretty typical.
Any other questions for employee benefits or insurance? Who wants to speak on county tax?
Ralph does.
Ralph?
Well, this year, you know, I believe we're going to get some benefit from this community study. The ARPA funds will be used to fund this public safety study, which is a major thing. You know, I continue to tell you the Sheriff's Department is a great service that we have with the county. We got a used car for the code enforcement office from the county. So there's a lot more, I'm sure, but it is what it is, the county tax.
Mm-hmm. No other questions? Debt service.
So, I don't know who it was initially that had asked about, making a change in the minutes. Was it Abigail or Karen? In regards to the maturity schedule of the existing outstanding bonds. After looking at the amortization schedule, they mature in FY 2025. They were 10-year bonds issued in 2013 and 2015. And the reason why a 2013 10-year bond doesn't mature in FY 23 is based on when the first principal payment was due and paid. But if you look at the amortization schedules, they are in your budget books as well. The only other change that I added was looking to finance a new rescue combination utility rescue unit for the public safety department, and using some of their reserve funds to contribute towards it, but not depleting their reserve fund, and financing. I think we estimated 500,000 for a 10-year period. And as I had mentioned previously, we are in an interest rate rising market, so it's best to kind of plan that by the time the budget gets voted on, that interest rates will have been increased by then.
Joe,
Teresa, why does your interest payment go up when your principal's going down? It goes from 9,000 to 12,000.
I think you're
On
looking.
your 2013 bond.
You're looking at the 2022 year to date of 9,000, so that's as of December. But you also have an interest payment that's going to be due and payable in May.
So you're paying 3,000 a quarter, or
Well, it's semi-annual. So you're looking at your 2013 bond, and the 2022 budget is 16, and the 2023 interest budget is 12. So it went down $4,000.
Okay.
The principal, it appears that the principal is what they call equalized payments over the term of the bond.
Okay.
And I'm just not sure about, the finance charge.
Joe, are you looking at the 9,000, or are you looking at the 16,000? Because that bond, the interest is that.
Yeah,
that one is a year-to-date figure. Huh? Yeah, you were looking at the year-to-date instead of the budget figure.
So for 2023,
it is a decreasing interest payment.
Right. Shouldn't it be less than 12,000 then?
You're going from 16 to 12.
Well, didn't you just say you have a $3,000 payment due in May? I don't know.
The 2000.
I'll stop asking questions.
No, it's okay. So the interest payments in May, it's going to be May 1st interest is going to be 7,000. We already paid 9. That's why we budgeted 16. So come the end of the fiscal year, we will have paid 16. Next year, the interest payments are 7,000 in November and 5,000 in May. So I'm budgeting 12, and I'm just taking it right off the amortization schedule.
I think what might have threw him off was when you said 3,000.
Oh.
Not taking it off the schedule. That was confusing. Possibly, I don't know. But it is what it is. I mean, it's right there. Right?
we all set with debt service? Capital improvements. Dennis,
Quick question to Nathan. It says in the written, on the second page, that we're replacing the 209, the 2009 CAT excavator. That's the one that our subcontractor owned, and we're buying our own now. Is that what that is?
We
Or did we
purchased
have
that. We purchased that from our subcontractor 5 years ago, I believe it was. And we're trading up. We're looking to trade up. It depends on how the market is. I haven't really seen anything really favorable. We're going to be looking for like a rental unit or something used, but the market's not really been very favorable for any good deals lately.
Excellent.
The idea there is
Just
kind of
curious.
Sorry.
What's that?
That makes sense. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The idea there is you're going to go with a slightly larger machine.
Correct. We're going to go up essentially one size of what we got.
And the benefit is production.
Benefits production. The machine we got's got quite a few hours on it, and it's getting to a maintenance point. I don't want to get. I just think it's time. Anything bigger than that, we rent it. So
it makes sense. Thank you.
And occasionally we do have to rent a very large machine when we get into the, really big stumps and boulders and things.
On our big projects, we usually, for the last 3 years, we've rented a significantly larger excavator from rental house for 2 weeks. We line the work up, I guess for no other reason other than pound their machine and not ours.
any other questions on capital improvement? Nate, is this where you put in your funding request for the new maintenance facility?
Yes, I've got an account, maintenance facilities or municipal facilities for capital improvements on all the town facilities except for the fire department. And we added 50,000 into that to do a renovation at the old District 1 fire station, 47 Main Street. That's the shared office for Joe and I, and that's where we'd like to kind of spiff it up a little bit, clean it up. It's overdue. It's kind of an eyesore in town here. We're right in the middle of town, so kind of thinking kind of nice to clean it up.
So that would include the exterior work it needs as well.
Yeah, that's exterior, interior. We're taking one bay out the short out, and that's where you'd walk into an office. We're adding a bathroom, and we're expanding the mechanical room, and new siding over the brick, and paint it and clean it up, and add the public water to it.
It just won't be the same. It won't have the same charm as the existing bathroom. That existing bathroom. That's really nice.
Dennis.
I'm just curious. I don't remember the history, but I know that we had a couple of shared utilities with the library. Was the well one of them?
No, yeah, we're right now. Our water's up to the library, and when they came through with the water line, when you were a fire chief, you added a stub out here for District 1, and there is a stub for the library building up there.
Okay, and the septic system, is there any upgrade to that? I know that was an issue.
We put a new septic system in 4 years ago. Just the leach field. We didn't have to do the tank. We just did the leach field.
And the other question I had, is there any room for expansion there at all, Nathan? I don't remember ever exploring that.
Very little. The piece of property this sits on is about 20 feet outside around the building.
Okay, thank you very much.
Revenues. Nothing on revenues?
Yeah, the only thing that I'd like to mention is that, we'll plan to get with Alex on, his proposed permit and fee increases, for the board to look at in June and see what that change to the CEO revenue line might be, could be 10,000. I don't know. I think we've pretty much looked at everything else and
We've made some changes in fire rescue though, right? Or we're going to do that?
we did already. The latest revenue sheet represents the increase in the medical reimbursement fee that's collected. We initially had 160,000. We've increased it to 175 and feel really confident that we would, at least meet that, if not exceed it slightly. And I think that was about it for changes. The revenue sharing, that was published on March 14th. That change has been implemented. I think that's about it, because we do some interlocal, local sharing of services. Nathan does roadside mowing for a couple of local towns, and we do, bill them, for our time and equipment. And because this season, we took over the plowing of the schools, plowing and sanding. And then we have a shared employee with the town of Naples, and he'll be starting back with them the third week in April. And it seems to work out really well.
Right, and the other thing that Nathan's pursuing, he's working on, you may want to talk about the marketing, the services of our mechanic to a couple of our neighboring towns. It's not fully, I guess, at a point where we can say that we have a, cemented relationship, but maybe you want to talk about that, maybe what you're doing.
We're talking to Casco, and we've done actually one job here just this week for Naples. That's really about it. The other talks to Casco is about the roadside mowing.
So we're talking about doing the PM maintenance on some of
Correct.
the equipment. They're beginning to baby step into public works, both towns. And so they don't have the ability to do that. And so it's a service we can provide, and it's a revenue center for us. We can save them some money as a, neighboring municipality, but also it's a paying proposition for us. Time allowing, our priorities are ours first.
Our stuff comes first, Public Works and Fire Department, and then if we have a balance of time and we can help them, we do. It's worked all right now.
And same with rental of equipment. If the equipment is idle and it's something that we can, feel comfortable leasing them, we do that. If we need to do it with an operator or something, time permitting, we can look at that as a revenue source too.
I think most of the stuff that we're gonna, and we've looked at this a little closer, anything that's registered or going over the road, we're gonna send with one of our employees.
Right.
Or goes with one of our employees. The smaller stuff, we've got to come up with a fee schedule with them. We're working on that right now.
And they basically got very, very little. So I think that as they ramp up and get into public works, it's a good neighbor thing and it's a good revenue thing, I think.
Yeah.
And we do the same thing. I mean, we borrow equipment from other towns, the bigger towns, Wyndham, for instance, and Gray. I mean, obviously we trade back and forth, correct?
Correct.
Bruce, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually a comment, and we touched on it a second ago, but the fire department will also be looking at a lot of our fees and making some proposed changes for those, as well as renegotiating the Fire Island contract this year. So that will pose some changes. I just don't know when exactly or where we'll exactly land on those items. So just kind of keep those in the back of our minds that there will be some changes proposed there.
That's been a good relationship, though. They've been, a steady customer for that service, and then also they're our best customer for used fire equipment as well.
Correct.
Correct.
So that's worked out well, and we haven't taken advantage of it for a while, but there was a time, and I guess we can still do it if we want to, where rather than mothballing their trucks, they permitted us to use them in the winter, or use one in the winter while ours were being serviced.
Right, we haven't done that in several years, but yeah, we have.
Oh, it's something we can do if we want to.
Yes, exactly.
So they've been cooperative with us.
Correct.
I'm gonna move on to public comment.
There seems to be no public to comment, sir.
Well, we have some budget finance comment. Select board comment. Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.